Good morning, friends, brothers, and sisters, New Palestine Christian Church disciples of Christ. It's an honor and a blessing to be here with you this morning, this Thursday morning, for some Bible coffee. Thank you for joining me. By the way, I wanted to mention on the first episode, you may have remembered us making a short mention that we had taken that picture and you could see up the way a little town on the hill and a lighthouse, and that was Joppa. Right there, that was on the edge of where Israel meets the Mediterranean Sea at Tel Aviv. And right there, I took a video with my phone that's about 20-25 seconds long, and we have that playing in a loop as you see the sun over the waters of the Mediterranean Sea. I may come back and quiz you on what that is later on. So that's your little Easter egg here. If you are watching this, you know what that water is. And we may ask you about it again later. I just wanted to share that with you because it's really special to us. Let's jump right into it. So today, Genesis chapter 4, and we'll be looking at the story of Cain and Abel. And remember, I'm reading from the column on the right, which is the JPS Tanakh translation. The column on the left is the NRSV translation. Now the man knew his wife, and she conceived and bore Cain, saying, I have gained a male child with the help of the Lord. She then bore his brother Abel. Abel became a keeper of sheep, and Cain became a tiller of the soil. In the course of time, Cain brought an offering to the Lord from the fruit of the soil. And Abel, for his part, brought the choicest of the firstlings of his flock. The Lord paid heed to Abel and his offering, but to Cain and his offering he paid no heed. Cain was much distressed. His face fell. The Lord said to Cain, Why are you distressed? Why is your face fallen? Surely, if you do right, there is uplift. But if you do not do right, sin crouches at the door. Its urge is toward you, yet you can be its master. Cain said to his brother Abel, Let us go out into the field. When they were in the field, Cain set upon his brother Abel and killed him. The Lord said to Cain, Where is your brother Abel? And he said, I don't know. Am I my brother's keeper? And he said, What have you done? Hark, your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground. Therefore you shall be more cursed than the ground, which opened its mouth to receive your brother's blood from your hand. If you till the soil, it shall no longer yield its strength to you. You shall become a ceaseless wanderer on earth. Cain said to the Lord, My punishment is too great to bear, since you've banished me this day from the soil, and I must avoid your presence and become a restless wanderer on earth. Anyone who meets me may kill me. The Lord said to him, I promise, if anyone kills Cain, sevenfold vengeance shall be taken on him. And the Lord put a mark on Cain, lest anyone who meet him should kill him. Cain left the presence of the Lord and settled in the land of Nod, east of Eden. Cain knew his wife, and she conceived and bore Enoch, and then founded a city and named the city after his son Enoch. To Enoch was born Irad, and Irad begot Mehujael, and Mehujael begot Methuselah, and Methuselah begot Lamech. Lamech took himself 2 wives. The name of one was Adah, and the name of the other was Zillah. Adah bore Jabal, and was the ancestor of those who dwell in tents amidst herds. And the name of his brother was Jubal. He was the ancestor of all who play the lyre and the pipe. As for Zillah, she bore Tubal-Cain, who forged all implements of copper and iron, and the sister of Tubal-Cain was Naamah. Lamech said to his wives, Adah and Zillah, hear my voice. O wives of Lamech, give ear to my speech. I've slain a man for wounding me, a lad for bruising me. If Cain is avenged sevenfold, then Lamech 77-fold. Adam knew his wife again, and she bore a son, and named him Seth. meaning God has provided me with another offspring in place of Abel, for Cain had killed him. And to Seth, in turn, a son was born, and he named him Enosh. It was then that men began to invoke the Lord by name. Grass withers, flower fades, but the word of the Lord lives forever. And this is the word of the Lord. All thanks be to God. Well, these early stories, I'll tell you what, they give us an awful lot to talk about. And first of all, we see where the name Seth comes from. We see our music minister and guitarist and producer and all kinds of stuff, Seth Jordan. It made me think of him when we see Seth in the story. We also find some of those difficult genealogies starting up that are kind of challenging to read. Thank you for bearing with me. We won't always read all the genealogies. Cain got upset because God accepted Abel's offering. God liked Abel's offering better. This is one of those little fuzzy kind of things in the scripture, because we wonder a lot, why did God like Abel's sacrifice better? Was it better that it was the firstlings of his flock instead of the fruit of the earth? Is it the matter that it was firstlings and that Abel actually gave the best of what he had and Cain? We're not really sure because it doesn't say. We don't really know why God chose Abel's offering over Cain's, but God did, because God does what God does, right? And Cain had to deal with it. Cain's countenance fell, the look on his face, and his head fell. And God chose Abel's offering over his. He became very sad. He became jealous. He became angry. And that angry spilled out with blood on the ground. And something interesting about this passage that we don't usually talk too much about is this person Lamech. Lamech, turns out, he killed a man for wounding him. And then Lamech stands his ground and says, if Cain is going to be avenged sevenfold, God protecting Cain, making sure that Cain doesn't get hurt, then Lamech even more so, because as Lamech said, I've slain a man for wounding me. So this was like a provoked killing, I guess, or self-defense, or whatever we want to call it. So that's why Lamech feels more justified in his killing and feels like if anything should happen to him, it should be avenged that much more than even Cain's. So that's an interesting part to keep in mind that we don't usually talk about too much with the story. So what should we take out of this morning? I would like to draw your attention back to verse 6 of chapter 4, where on the right you see it's written as poetry, and then on the left it's just included in the paragraph, but it's saying the same thing on the JPS version. Why are you distressed? Why is your face fallen? Surely if you do right, there is uplift. But if you do not do right, sin crouches at the door. Its urge is toward you, yet you can be its master. From the NRSV side, it says, why are you angry? Why is your countenance fallen? If you do well, will you not be accepted? And if you do not do well, sin is lurking at the door. Its desire is for you, but you must master it. So just with this little piece, we're reminded that it's not that the Lord rejected Cain's offering. The Lord just liked Abel's offering better. Cain wasn't rejected. Cain wasn't shoved away. Cain just got very angry about Abel's offering being favored, being the one God liked better. So in his jealousy, his fit of rage, he opened his heart to sin. And then as we find in the story playing out, he was not able to master that sin. But that's what God warned him, said, sin crouches at the door waiting for every opportunity to get in. You know what? But you can be its master. When that sin comes, you can be its master. You can decide whether or not that sin is going to have its way. Well, Cain let the sin have its way, and he committed murder, and the story plays out from there, the first murder in the Bible. And interestingly enough, we see that God does not punish Cain with death, with capital punishment for committing that murder. God sends him away and still protects his life. Just gives him the punishment of being totally removed from his family and friends and everything he ever knew, and had to start fresh. But with these two verses here, verses 6 and 7, things can happen and open the doors of our hearts to sin. Happens every day, happens all the time. Any little thing can happen, get under our skin, make us angry, make us want to lash out in one way or another. But we can master that urge. Sin's urge is toward us to take us down, but we can master that and put it at bay and continue behaving as God would have us behave as God's children. Please bear that in your minds and hearts this morning as we go forward, that you can master sin. And may all glory go to God. Peace be with you, my friends.